First of all, my name is Azalea Renfield, the CEO of Williams Russell. Words really can't express my boundless gratitude to be before you are in this prestigious university, to see our people sitting here alive and well and thriving. It's just really beautiful to see. As we talk about reparative development, you'll learn some of the elements that we've been dealing with a lot of our lives and seeing it throughout our nation, our cities, and in some ways, even in our neighborhoods. But let's ground ourselves a bit. There's a quote by Bell Hooks that says, "To tend the earth is always been to tend our destiny, our freedom, and our hope." So as we try to go on this endeavor and share a little bit about our work, I hope that you all find something that you could take home with you and take back to your respective communities and change the world from here. So let's go on a little journey. You guys are Black in Design, a story rooted in harm, healing, and the future of Black geography. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna also, before I start, introduce my team, my partners, Tanisha Renee, she's my Chief Operations Officer, and Bison Davis, our President. And so we're a trifecta here today. We often do this as a group, and again, we're much more stronger together, and hopefully you enjoy the journey. So let me just give you a high level about our agenda. We're going to basically share with you some of the highlights about what reparative development is, what it looks like at the community on the ground. We're going to talk about what reparative development actually takes to get it done and how this will in fact change the world. And then we're also going to give you a chance to kind of work with us, develop your own plans and take it back to your community. And then there's some high lessons, because we always want to leave with lessons on how we could do things differently. So, what is Williams Russell? Williams Russell, it's in our name. Our name is not unique. It comes from the streets on which we're working at. It's rooted and embedded in community. It's the things that govern our work. This is the site right now that we're talking about, Williams and Russell, and that's how we got it in the name, to keep it true. But we are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to restoring housing, economic development, community, and also just making sure that we have a place to go and have an epicenter, if you will, of Black Portland. We're already in Portland, Oregon, and what we're trying to really do is show the world, and again, there's a lot happening right now, as you all know, where Oregon is under attack, specifically Portland, with the administration, but we are formidable people, we're resilient, and we're going to continue to do what we need to do to really be the best that we can be. This is no ordinary day for us, we're used to it. So we'll keep persisting. So here's the team. And I want to rest here just for a second. This is our team that helps us get to what we're doing. But something that happened before this even happened was something called a project working group. I'm going to ask Dr. Alicia, can you step and stand up? Dr. Alicia Moreland. She's actually a teacher here. She actually was on this group when it first started and was part of the foundation of how we become to be. So that's Alicia. There she is right there. You probably see her. Thank you, Dr. Alicia. So she was on a project working group with others in the community, and that actually informed our work. And then out of that group came the board of directors. These folks were on the project working group. Some stayed on the project and was committed to the charge and wanted to actually make sure they steer our work and help us get to where we need to get. What's unique about this particular board is, if you notice in our bylaws here at the bottom, it was intentionality about making sure that we have the right people on this project at all times. So it's not just arbitrary, it really is intentionality behind it. We have big community organizations, or I would say big just in notoriety and just people know who's in the community, that we designated 3 seats for organizations to be on this project. Black leading, Black governed, Black managed, to say, hey, we want to talk about this project. We also wanted to make sure we have 2 business owners. Because we talk about economic development, we need people to be in the economic development space. Then we also have at-large seats, but most importantly, we wanted to have people that were actually impacted by the displacement. So there's 2 seats there and counting for people that actually have direct legacy and heritage to that land. And that's Kara Sotomayor and Anthony Deloney. So these things are not arbitrary. Everything we do is about intentionality, about how we move. It's because of this board that we're here today. It's because of this board that these people are trusted voices. I want to emphasize that, trusted voices. Because again, this is no ordinary development, and you'll understand why as we go through the slides. And of course, I'm just one of many. There's my executive team. There is no charge in this world that's better than double I's, triple ears, to double ears, because we do things so much better. We make no decision on our own. I make no decision on my own. We do it as a team. I get buy-in. They say, I don't like it, Azalea. And we got to be in the room to make sure we get it right. And so together we do that. And there's heated debates, heated conversations. And, we don't always see eye to eye, but we have to see eye to eye before we move forward. And then we send it to our board of directors, and they approve every decision that we do. Again, back to intentionality, and that's hard work. So there's the team. So what is reparative development? I will say this. When this came to me, I was actually so moved by how this came. In 2017, Ted Willard, the former mayor of Portland, went out and issued a formal apology, an acknowledgement and a formal apology, saying, I'm so sorry for what happened to Black Portland on this piece of land. We know that politicians often don't apologize, and they certainly don't take any accountability for what happened in the past, unless there's something good in for them. And that still arguably could still be the case. However, it wasn't just a formal apology. It was something that happened after that. And I'm going to tell you what happened after that. So let me just say what reparative development is. And this will be a matter of contemporary policy. It is the very notion that's going to be the great equalizer. It is the thing that combats urban renewal. Urban renewal is supposed to be there, and much like the design, to make things better, to replenish, but it came at a cost. Lots of wealth was lost. Houses were lost, businesses were lost. And in that, communities completely destroyed, putting us many, many, many decades back. But it was reparative development that's kind of on the periphery of coming out new. We've been to many universities talking about this, and cities have been calling us, asking about how we're doing this work. This is why this will be a matter of contemporary policy. So what is reparative development? Well, it's a policy that's going to happen. It involves a formal apology and acknowledgement of the harm from policies, procedures that had adverse effects to communities. It involves material investment, money from the city government. When Ted Willard apologized and acknowledged the harm, he also backed it up with some money. The bureaus came out and gave money, and the Portland Housing Bureau, Prosper Portland, which is our economic development arm, gave money to the project to get things done. And then the part I love the most, it involved community ownership. The community drives the build. That's why I said this is no ordinary development. The community is driving development. Usually development drives development. The expenditures drive development, but not in reparative development. The community drives it. Some five principles that I want to share with you all. Community governs. It's about wealth building being the primary goal. There's some wealth that has to go there. It's about preserving culture. It's about making sure you get the people who were harmed first. We have something important called the preference policy that governs our work. So in housing, in purchase of the homes, in business economic development, preference policy folks and recipients get access first. And then last and certainly not least, government is a partner. We can't do this work without government. And remember, trust. There's a lack of trust, right? We talked about that early on. But the board in which we trust, the board trusts the staff to make sure that we go out and make deals on their behalf to make sure we get there. But we need government to be there because we need their dollars. And you're going to learn more about it. We're going to see this in practice in just a moment. So I want to just give you an illustration. This is what development usually looks like. Just normal development, how we see it every day. But reparative development is holistic. It's collaborative. Community decides, community owns, It's community specific, cultural specific, priorities to those who have been harmed, and it's about building wealth. And you're going to hear specifically how we're building wealth on this 1.7 acres of land. This is extraordinary. Again, reparative development is what it is. It will, in fact, be a matter of contemporary policy. Just wait and you'll see. I'm going to call up Tanisha to come up and tell you about what happened here on this 1.7 acres land.
Yeah. I'm so disappointed. I wish that the slide would have worked, but next time around. And to kick us off, when we think about reparative development, right, it isn't just about buildings. It isn't just about housing. It is about acknowledging the harm, investment in the repair, because acknowledging the harm without money behind it, what does that really do for anybody? And returning ownership back to the community. And so we're not looking at this like a charity, but an accountability to what was done to the people that were displaced from the area. So keep that in mind when you think about reparative development. And as Azalea says, it can become contemporary policy, especially in this climate, when we think of those hot words and we think of, yeah, I'm sure everybody has maybe never been to Portland, but well aware of how much the current administration cannot stand what is going on in this city that we are about 6% of the population is. So you know who's out there doing these protests. It's not us, right? So while we have this target on our back, this is not on their radar, and it's because it is repairing a harm. We're not talking about this is about Black people. It's about this. It's about that. It's about really helping and going in deep for the people that you displaced from this area. And keeping it focused and targeted to that harm has really kind of benefited us in a way to not be getting our hands slapped or getting people put like obstacles in the way of it. So think of reparative development in that way when you're moving forward with it. And this is Hill Block. So when we talk about Portland and Williams and Russell, the streets, again, Williams and Russell, but it was called Hill Block, and it was named after a mayor that had started it. And the area has sat vacant for 50 years. This was supposed to be, it was cleared out for the hospital expansion that they never got to get to. And I'm 42 years old. Ever since I've been alive, I have driven by this and seen this close. It's an open field. There's a community center down the street. My kids used to play soccer here sometimes, but it's just been empty, vacant land. And not only were there homes, there were thriving businesses there. Portland in that time was known as the Harlem of the West Coast, like jazz musicians from all over the world coming to play there. The Cotton Club in Hill Block was world renowned, right? And that's, how do you repair that harm? How do you put a dollar sign on what could have been over the last 50 years from what was built in that short time? So in 1950 is when Hill Block was here, it was created. It was a self-sustaining Black hub for community, homeownership, and businesses. There's a pharmacy. The Black Panthers had a health clinic in there. You knew your neighbors, right? There was anything you could think of was there. In 1971, it was demolished for the hospital expansion. That never actually happened. So it just sat there. People driving by this on a regular basis and go, my house used to be there. My neighbor used to do, that kind of harm. How do you really repair that? It's still vacant, right? And the neglect and the structural environment, and I'm sure Bryson will kind of get into that as well, just what it was like, hey, we're taking it, tear it all down. We don't care what the remediation that needed to be done by just them saying we want it, but having nothing to do with it. And so, of course, the theory of urban renewal was to remove blight. It was supposed to create prosperity, but again, for who, right? There was already prosperity there that did not have that name for it. Portland's story mirrors so many other places, I'm sure, and that's part of the handout that I gave you. And just keep in mind, like in your area, wherever you grew up, you know of an area of what it used to be, right? So we're not unique. This is foundational Black American story all over the United States. It happens everywhere. The same federal playbook, of course, redlining, disinvestment, erasure under the banner of progress, again, but for who? Because really this was just theft. It was outright theft. That's all, what we can really call it. And then, of course, the reality of urban renewal really was just Black erasure, Black removal, and like a legalized theft, families displaced, culture scattered. But the biggest hit was to the community, the displacement of that. And even as we talk about Hill Block, know just in the back of your mind that Black people in Portland were in Vanport, which they let flood out and then moved us to this area. Then they took it. And it's still happening. As we see that gentrification, they're just pushing us further and further and further out. And within that 50 years, 171 families are displaced from this one block, right? 50 businesses were lost. I'm sorry, not 50, 30 businesses were lost. The timeline of it, just 1967, plans were announced. We're gonna expand. It being demolished in 1971. The project canceled by 1973. They ran out, and again, it's been here for 50 years, but within 2 short years, they didn't even have no money to finish what they started. And again, it's sat empty. And just kind of think of this, right? Just like a mini reflection of thinking, where in your city or your hometown has a similar story? Where are the places that you remember like, oh, that's the bowling alley we used to go to growing up. That's the church, that's this. Where are those places for you guys? And I'm just gonna take a pause. I'm sure I would love to know your history of the areas that you've been. I'm sure it mirrors, again, Portland in a whole. Anybody want to share? I thought you said you were from Portland, so I'm hoping you remember some of this or know the history of some of it.
Yes, my grandmother's house was actually.
That's crazy.
Where I'm in the hospital had where they demolished. So I feel like I'm also third generation Black Widow.
Yeah.
Miss Moylan is my cousin.
Hey, okay, we love to see the connection.
A big Black family in Portland, but it's just crazy because that was just so not my own experience.
Yes.
And to constantly hear like other people's memories of a place that I'm so familiar with.
Yes.
It's always disloyalty. So yeah, I feel like literally this site makes me think about that a lot.
Yes.
There's also like high schools, like how much they changed. Like my dad, my whole family went to Jeff.
Oh, demos. I already know.
I can't say that because I didn't know.
Me neither. My son did.
Like even just the back and forth of like my cousin Daryl, like when he was there, it was super white. And when my dad was there, it was super black. And when my brother was there, it was on teams when he was black. Now my little cousins are there, they're like some of the old Black kids. So it's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
very much so.
One small neighborhood, which is also just like further north of here, can go through so many rapid changes. And it just makes me think about like how Black people are always at the disposal of external forces and claiming our capacity to have our own spaces. And we're not necessarily wanting to be or necessarily even stay there. It's just like where we are able to be out, where we really can be. So.
Yeah, and to touch on that, Jeff is one of the last 5, and had been one of the last 5 traditional Black schools in Portland. And that, of course, as they've brought in Middle College High School, which is a program for you to get dual credits at the community college right across the street and a high school, and it's free to you, and the area has been gentrified, it almost seems like the white population now is really reaping from that when it used to be an historical Black school. So, just think, and again, put the context, I always call Portland like a hipster haven, right? It's made for them, by them, and it was illegal for us to even live there. So for us to even have Hill Block was so much, to have Vanport, to have Hill Block, and then to continue to be displaced. So that was just part of the mini reflection. And thank you for sharing that. I know sometimes it's like, oh, I'm in front of all these people. But if anybody else would like to share, yes, please.
Hello, thanks for coming. Great topic. In Boston, in the 1960s, during that urban renewal period, Roxbury, which is the predominant neighborhood in Boston, they were targeted. Homes were lost, in the domain, businesses as well, and they were supposed to build a highway, but the highway never happened. So people got displaced permanently. And it's the same story in our neighborhoods throughout the country.
Absolutely.
Neighborhoods with where the property values are low.
Yeah.
For these types of projects, and and the harm is generational. Just
And it's, anytime we kind of do these talks, Mr. Paul Knowles was the owner of the Cotton Club. He is still alive. And he always says, great, we're building homes and all, but what about my business? I lost the Cotton Club. They've made documentaries. How do we and what do we say to him when he says that, like, yay, we hear you. You know what I mean? It's really hard to kind of look that man in the eyes who's still alive, who lost so much there, and drive by it on a regular. And how old is Mr. 90? He's 93 years old. I think he just stopped driving last year too, so I should tell you a little bit. Mr. Knowles. And to your point, every time I travel somewhere, I looked up Boston, because what is it going to be like when I get there? And I did it with Dorchester. I don't know if I'm even saying that right. Rochester. So I kind of got a little bit of that because, just being Black, where am I going? What am I about to walk into? And I kind of veered off topic, so I'm going to.
Yeah, Rochester is the historic part of, one of the historic parts of Boston where all the, anybody came to Boston who was like Black intellectuals, King, Malcolm X,
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, Dutch spoke here. So Rochester, new addition.
Yeah, okay. I like it. Love that. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
So I just need to piggyback on what you said.
Yes.
And actually, it's more an example of reparative development because the highway was stopped because citizens literally put themselves in the path.
Absolutely. I love the fight.
They said, you are not going to fight in the city and take all the
But that
of the state.
was
But I think it's a good example of how the community came in and said, you're going to destroy us, but we're going to sort of take this and build on it. So,
Yeah.
just want to make sure that,
Yeah.
that story is
And Dudley Street Initiative, they're very interesting.
Oh.
CDC, I believe they were
Wow.
CDC, but they were, I think, the first in the country to use eminent domain as people, like as citizens, to retake back land.
Okay.
So they're really cool, in terms of as a precedent.
Oh, that's awesome. Because again, even with the reparative development, like you're saying, to your point, it all comes from eminent domain. It all comes from that theft. So there is a legal pathway to say, give us our stuff back. And then even when you give it back, we'll put some dollars behind it because I don't need just the land. And then usually the land is not worth anything, right? The work that needs to be done just to get it to a place to build is astronomical. So we love your words, but we love your actions even more. And we love the dollar signs behind the actions because that's what's going to get us where we need to go.
We talked a little bit about the history, right? So let's talk about like what we're actually trying to build here. Some of the stuff moving forward. So our main project is on a 1.7 acre block, and there's kind of three main vision projects, and then there's kind of three sub projects. The three main projects are this row of townhomes here, where we've got 20 different townhomes. I'll talk about those a little bit in a minute. Apartment block here, which is affordable, mostly family size. I think it's going to be mostly 2-bedroom apartments here. And then a business hub that focuses on Black businesses and nonprofits that support Black economic development. We've also got a couple sub-projects. One is, you saw the pictures of what the block looked like in the past. All those buildings had basements. They filled those basements by knocking the old building into the hole. I don't know if you know anything about buildings from the early 1900s, but they're full of all sorts of heavy metals that you don't want your kids digging around if they're digging in your backyard. And so we had to dig up the whole block, remove all of the dirty dirt, and then bring in a bunch of fresh dirt. We started that work back in April, and we should be done here in the next month or so. The second kind of sub-project is in the center here. You see kind of like a plaza area. That's going to be a cultural plaza garden where we're going to highlight some art. We're going to make it a community space. It's going to be owned by the same entity that owns the business hub and run through the same thing. And then you can't see it on this picture, but there's a half block that extends here north that we were able to get as well, in addition to our block. It is probably going to be townhomes similar to this. We haven't fully decided, but that's probably coming in our future as well. So the home ownership. One of the big things that we heard as a project working group early in the process was we have all of these apartment projects, all of these rental housing, affordable rental housing, but we're not creating any wealth from it. From an architectural design standpoint, I think they're good, but that's not what makes these exciting. What really makes these exciting is the wealth aspect and the ownership aspect and the having a home back in the community aspect. So we've got 3 different designs in here on the ends. So like this one here, these are bigger 1,800 square feet, 3-bedroom townhouses. They've got a fully ADA accessible ground floor that can be broken off as an ADU. You can rent it out if you want, or if you've got like an elderly family member who needs a place to live, they can live with you. Or if you've got a younger kid who's struggling to find their own place, they can live in a place that's at least separate from where you are. They all have so we've also got all the way down to 1,200 square feet 2-bedroom townhomes, and so we have a bit of a range, and the affordability will also be a bit of a range. We're targeting 60 to 100% area median income for that. Obviously 60 is going to be more on the 2 bedrooms, and 120 is going to be more on the bigger 3 bedrooms with the ADU. There's also some 3 bedrooms that are like 1,600 square feet without an ADU. Azalea mentioned the preference policy. So in the US, we've got the Fair Housing Act, which was good for us because that meant that white folks couldn't say, you can't sell this home to black people. But it's bad for these sorts of things because we can't then sell only to black people. But one of the things that the preference policy does is it looks at the harm that was done from the hospital expansion. And then it ties your preference for buying the house based on your connection to the area historically and the harm that was originally done. Obviously, since the area is mostly black folks, the people who were harmed were mostly black folks. You don't get 100% black people, but you get pretty high, pretty close.
Can I add to it, Bryson? And so really, so transparent, I'm a recipient of the preference policy. So I was able to buy my home back in historical Vanport. I love my home, but I also sit on the committee and the oversight with the Portland Housing Bureau for it, and the amount has gone up. So with that 150, right, so 130 of that you'll be using for your down payment. 20 of it you will be able to use for repairs, and anybody can apply. But I want to really touch on it because it is the cornerstone of how you get the displaced, harmed people back, right? So it's on a point system, and I think the most is 6 points. So, and it's calculated depending on how close you were to the harm, right? So what that looked like for me is, oh, I went to school, here's my school record. So you knew I went to a school over there. Here's a driver's license at the time that had an address within that policy. So anybody can apply, right? You could apply tomorrow, you might have 2 points, but somebody else that was more harmed is gonna get it 6 points. So that's how we're able to use that. And it is such a cornerstone of what we're doing. Go ahead.
And it also helps.
There's a question.
Yes.
I can wait if it's not time.
No, go for it.
Go ahead. Okay, I have a question. Is that policy, is that at the city level?
Yes.
Or the state level? And is that a newer policy, or is that something that's been around for a long time?
New-ish. I think it's.
I would say I moved back to Portland in 2012. I think I
Yeah.
got on the list by 2015. So it's within the last, let's say, 10 to 12 years. And it's evolved, right? And it's changed. And we've even added rentals on it. At first, it was just homeownership. But even with the apartments on there, that is also included in the preference policy. And another question, please.
Does that policy include people who are like indigenous to the land that was their land before even the Black District existed?
It does not specifically, and just a little context, Portland specifically was like one of the 3rd largest relocation center for Native Americans back in they have a robust kind of thriving community and resources. So they're not necessarily kind of like, hey, we want in on that, or we want to be, but if they were there previously and lived there and were, it really specifically is tied to the harm. And that's, yes, and that's how we get away from, oh, we're just putting black people in these houses. So not necessarily, but it does not exclude anyone.
Yep.
You got it. Sorry.
Because I'm in Oklahoma City, and I'm working in a neighborhood that was disproportionately affected by urban renewal.
And the Urban Renewal Authority, which still calls itself Urban Renewal, they still own a lot of the property.
Yeah.
It's vacant. It's so embarrassing because we had a national conference a couple of years ago. We took people on a driving tour and we took them to the east side. They thought we were in a different city because of all the vacancy. They're like, are we still in Oklahoma City? So it's horrible. And something that we're trying to push them to do is to allow these preferential opportunities for Black people to move back into these neighborhoods to own, to develop. But they're saying is, well, that's discrimination. We can't do that. And so if there's anything you can unpack about how, I don't know if you all champion that or there's another organization that helped create that policy change, I would love to hear insights on that because they're saying that we can't do this because it's discriminatory and racist, even though we're trying to address a racist and discriminatory practice that you all led.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to repair.
So our project in our organization was after the preference policy was started, but I do know you can kind of see this in politics too, right? Where you're gerrymandering, you can't gerrymander based on race, but you can gerrymander based on other factors like political party and things like that. And so there are ways you can get to race without specifically going for race. And then again, you get a little bit of mix. So you're not going to have 100% of the community you're going for, but you're going to have like 90%. So there are ways where you can really filter it down. I mean, like, again, thinking about if you've got the urban renewal department going around eminent domaining property, you could have something that's based on was your family, did they own a property that was eminent domain at that time? And like that could be, and then your connection to the people who own that property, that could be how you get ranked on the list. And that's going to get most of the people that you're trying to get without specifically saying if you're Black. Yep. Yep. Lastly, on the home ownership, we are trying to keep the quality of these pretty high. People still like to drive, and so all of the townhomes have an individual parking pad. There's also parking on the north side of the street that people will be able to use at night. And then this project specifically, we're looking at Earth Advantage Platinum is what we're trying to do. You can't see it because of it's on the other side of the roof, but there's solar going all the way down on both sides. And Portland has a clean energy fund that's local that helps us afford energy efficiency upgrades all throughout the home. So you think about the appliances, you think about the windows, all of that stuff is being able to be uprated. So we're not just building, stuff that looks good on the surface, but is pretty flimsy. Second project is the affordable apartments. So as I mentioned, these are 85 units, 70 are 2 bedrooms, 5 or 3 bedrooms, and 10 are 1 bedrooms. We really wanted to target units that could fit more than one couple, or a couple with children, to really make them accessible for families. Rather than a lot of the affordable apartments that go up around our city are 1 bedrooms and studios, and they can't accommodate some of the different family arrangements. On this side of the building, on the ground floor, is going to be a culturally specific daycare. There's a nonprofit daycare that's run by some Black women who is likely to be in that part of the building, and will serve the building as well as other people around in the area. We're going for Earth Advantage for this as well. This uses a preference policy. We also get to extend the range of the affordability of the people that we touch. So the townhomes were 60 to 120, and these are targeting 30 to 60. And then there's a bunch of wraparound support for the various different people in the building. We are also lucky in Portland that we have a Black-led nonprofit that does this, and so we're not reliant on the bigger white-led affordable housing developers from California and such coming in and then not being able to properly interact with and address community needs. And then the business hub, it's changing. You actually might see different versions of it throughout our presentation. This is going to be kind of our flagship project. So we're trying to do cross-laminated mass timber for the structure, and us being in Oregon and Oregon having a big timber industry, we're really hoping we can use the opportunity to connect the business hub with the other parts of the state to really get kind of more state buy-in to the project. We're looking to have a couple of different things. So on this ground floor, we're looking for affordable retail space. We've got other nonprofits in the area that work with small businesses, and we know a few Black-owned small businesses that can fit in this space, sell their services, sell their food, all of that stuff. On the second floor, we're looking at affordable office space. And like I said, we've got some Black-owned businesses that we're targeting as potential tenants, as well as some community-based nonprofits that economically support Black businesses. And the top floor, we've got a big community space. And so kind of in this corner is a big open area where people can host events. And then there's also a big roof deck that's going to be a green roof. It's going to have some solar on it where people can host activities. We're looking to also integrate with a bunch of workforce development programs, as well as integrate the services from some of our partner organizations. Oops. All right, so one big thing on our project is community engagement. We started as a community group, and then that community group did some community engagement to figure out what people wanted, what they wanted to see, what they felt like they needed. And then as each stage through the project, we're redoing the community engagement, targeting at the people that we're trying to reach. And so this picture here, for instance, is an event from just about a week ago where we were talking to people about that cultural plaza and garden, what they wanted to see, what they felt like they lost, what they wanted to be memorialized there. We've done a bunch of specific community engagement activities around the townhome, since that's the first project being built. And so we've reached out to preference policy people who are on the list already. What do they want to see? What colors do they like? What types of fittings and fixtures do they like? We've even changed the floor plan and designs of the townhomes based on the feedback that we got from people and what they wanted to see, what amenities they wanted to have. And the community engagement part of this work is challenging, right? Because, community doesn't trust developers because they screwed them in the past. The community doesn't trust the government because they screwed them in the past. And so being able to build that bridge and being able to do that as like an organization that's separate from both of those entities has helped bring people along in a way that other projects have struggled. We're able to show up more authentic than other projects. We're able to say, look, we have a targeted community benefit and we're tied to doing that benefit. It's not a developer that signs a community benefit agreement and maybe they follow it, maybe they don't. We're a nonprofit, right? So we're not trying to maximize the money that we get out of the project. We're trying to maximize the community benefit that we get out of the project. Yeah, go for it.
Because this reparative development is so dependent upon community and community acquiescing to this larger mission of repair and reconciliation, I don't think we can understand. I think we have to really lean into the fact that community work was really the hardest. It first initially engaged in community. You had folks who were community members working on the board. So I was a commissioner for Hospital Portland, which is the economic and community development piece, and grew up, as my cousin Tyler here, in the community, born and raised, and still got questioned by community members about whether or not I was community enough. And so I believe that there are some pieces that really underscore, that undergird this work that's really important. People came in, now my specialty is trauma, so we work with a number of organizations and people doing trauma-informed training, and you don't get from harm to healing without helping folks understand what healing actually is. That healing actually belongs to them as a community, and part of that healing had to do with really appreciating some of the dynamics, which was, oh, you went on to college to an Ivy League, so you're coming back, so are you really community? Or is your voice more important than mine? And I believe that these dynamics, though, they had to be worked out over time with consistency, and there was things that are in that process that have to repair. So I, as we think about this work, which is really important, I'm so glad that, and happy glad that it has moved so robustly and so powerfully, but it really came at the cost of people's souls.
Yes.
And so I do believe that, as you do this work, it's also important to engage kind of, professionals who understand human behavior. And hurt people really do hurt people. And in order to keep the process moving forward, there must be, it's imperative that there's someone there who really understands the process of repair and reconciliation and true healing. Yeah. So I just wanted, because you mentioned it a number of times, but I want to make sure that we underscore how hard it actually was.
Yeah, and I don't know if any of you have any experience in development, but development takes a good amount of time by itself when you're trying to do your capital stack, get the lands, and then build your building. This sort of stuff takes about twice as long. We spent 3.5 years before we even had an idea of the type of thing that we wanted to build. And then we spent another 2 years kind of putting together the plan of how we were going to approach the build. And only now are we starting to actually get to the construction part. And that's 7-8 years later. And so it takes, when you're in the work doing it, it takes a lot of patience, and it takes remembering that this process is different from the normal development process. Project Working Group started in 2018. So we started all of that work January of 2018, and we didn't start doing the remediation of the land until April of this year. But the consistency, like she mentioned, is a big piece. If we just done the community outreach that we did with the Project Working Group and left it at that, people wouldn't be satisfied that what's being built is actually connected. It's going back and people kind of constantly seeing it and seeing how their comments change what we're doing.
I just want to add, and I'm going to talk more about it. When we lived out Roxbury, the highway project called the Southwest Corridor Project, it took about 12 years for them to sort of come to agreement about what the community wanted.
Yeah.
And the community would not allow them to fast forward that project until they were fully on board. So as you think, it takes time before you can engage an architect.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It does.
Building before the building.
Yes. You want to start? Talk about where we get the money from?
Yes, thank you, Bryson. So I do want to say, this is the part where I just want to slow way down. Because I mentioned earlier about the importance of government being at the table and trying to make sure making sure we hold them accountable. And this framework about reparative development is the corner piece, because reparative development involves government funding. In fact, they're the sole provider of putting money into this project. So again, this is a $154 million project. And it's young Black professionals. Well, today I'm 43.
Yay!
So young, 43 and counting. And it's funny because today, my TV show, her brother is having a baby. So
She just texted me. She's in the little Scorpio love, Scorpio season.
So I'm happy a baby's born today. Okay. So $154 billion project with young Black professionals leading it, and they're trusting us to do that. Not they, government is trusting us to do this, and the board is trusting us to do this. So there's a lot of community buy-in, and this is not easy. A lot of accountability. I want to show you a little bit of how that looks. Here's a big picture. Look at all the money that has been secured on this project. $66 million. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. In progress, 31 million currently pending. And mind you, these are strategized between 4 big projects: the affordable home ownership, the townhomes, which is fully funded, by the way. Yay. I love it. And that we're gonna break ground in a few weeks and it'll be ready next year, those townhomes. And then also the community plaza and the business hub, the Black business hub. So that's a lot of money. That's a lot of grant writing. But what I really wanna show is, look at the breakdown. 60% government, and again, city, state, and federal government. Reparative development is led by the government in terms of funding. Because remember, we tied it to the what? Harm.
Yeah.
And the weird part is, this isn't arbitrary by any stretch of the imagination. It's the politicians that are adjacent to that land that lead this charge. You might say, well, how does a politician get behind reparations? I'm from California. Love it. LA's the Bay Area, but LA, I know, anyways. The point is, to get a politician behind this type of framework is difficult when you say reparations. California put a whole task force together, and Governor Newsom said, no way. And it was his idea. Because as soon as you say reparations, people are like, no way, Jose, not happening. But reparative development, we got so many people behind us. It was actually on the 28th day of this year, the Governor Cortez came down. I called her personally, invited her. She came down to the groundbreaking. It was over the news. She stood behind reparative development. The reason why she was able to do that, because in her mind, it was reparative development that she's standing behind, not Black development.
Right.
And the beautiful thing about this, you might say, well, what about the community? What are they saying about this? What do the Asian people have to say about this? Surely somebody's going to say, oh my God, you're helping Black people still. Well, guess what? We didn't say it was Black development, it's reparative development. You have a harm? Here you go, Asians. Here you go, Jewish. This is why I said it's the great equalizer. Because when we look at that notion and we see Black community using it, Hispanic community using it, no one's going to sit there and demonize those people. It's like, oh, the government messed up. And they keep it pushing. That's the part that's the great equalizer. This is why this framework will be a matter of contemporary policy, because we can get away from race politics. It's not serving us, any of us. And as we blend more, interracial marriages, kids biracial, it's like, at what point do we stop the back and forth? At what time do we get accountability? Because the truth of the matter is, the Native Americans are still suffering and trying to get through. Black people are suffering. Jewish people, we see what's happening now. It is the great equalizer in these United States of America. And when we talk about this framework like this, politicians can get behind it because they want to win. And they'll come out, they may not care, I'm gonna be honest. They may not care, but they want the photo op. Done. Please. But this is it. And again, pay attention to this. Can we talk to your city legislators? Get them involved. We have a $16 million ask at the state of Oregon. You guys want to say anything about that? $16 million, specifically for the business hub. And we have reason to believe that we might get it through. We have some plans, some best laid plans, but it's a huge ask. But it's also going to mobilize community, and not community, the neighborhood. So districts want to be involved in that, because again, we're not trying to wait. People can come shop there, hang out there. It's open to community. It just happens to be a Black community, so come learn about our community. So look at that. I just want you to keep that in mind. Sure.
I saw your funding stat.
Yeah.
How did you deal with pre-development funds?
I'm glad you asked. Bryson, you want to share with that?
Different projects have different pre-development considerations. The Portland Housing Bureau gave a lot of pre-development funds for the apartment project. For the remediation work, we actually got that money from the hospital. Hospital gave us $10 million when they gave us the land, because obviously the hospital benefited from the original harm. The Housing Bureau also chipped in another $2 million to help us do the remediation specifically on the housing parcels. And then Prosper Portland gave us a little bit of money for like the campus planning stuff, because the original like lot lines and stuff weren't divided obviously into our different projects. And so we needed to do the initial environmental surveying as well as doing the lot divisions. And so that was basically, the city is the answer to that question, as well as the hospital.
Okay, and question, considering that the timeline is much longer, do you have to vote against any type of administration changes that could trigger this?
So what changes?
Administration.
Oh, yes, yeah. Well, I mean, we got all our federal money in before the last administration changed, so that's definitely one. The other thing too is, you know, I think you hit the nail on the head with how long it takes, the considerations of government changes, right? And so like right now, our state government and our local government are also looking at their own overall budgets and going, we don't have that much money. But if one of the things that kind of advantages a project like this is we've got so much local government buy-in that helps other areas of government buy-in, and that also helps the local government give a little bit more to get things over the line, right? And so like you looked at that secured funding amount, I mean, I think $35 million comes from the city of Portland through various departments. And, you know, if all we need is just a couple million more, you get to the end of the line, is the city going to go, well, you know, we're okay with that money that we reserved for this just being wasted, not going anywhere? Probably not, right? And so I think it's really that connection, that involvement, that early integration with the city or with any government department helps bring everybody else along and incentivize them more to take the project seriously.
Okay. In models such as this, how is, or I guess who determines what a harm is?
Yeah, we're basing ours strictly on policies, and really this is the fun part. Thank you. Any harm that you guys can think of in your communities, if you can link it to policy, the better, right? And we can all, I think a lot of this stuff, in terms of displacement, you can link to a harm. Whether it's like, even if it's just like, oh, we need to build a new hospital, eminent domain, right? You can find a harm somewhere. Utilities, you know, they got wires coming through here. These are hazards because, you know, the utility companies just power these cables through the property. So attaching your harm to a policy would really help and substantiate you.
Well, if you're thinking about the United States, the entire era of urban renewal has so many options that you're fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to talk about this real quick, and this is really important because we talked about government really funding us, but there's also gap funding. We received from Nike, because remember, when you get this government funding, everyone's watching. So you can use that as a platform. We've been all over the world talking about, well, I wouldn't say the world literally. Well, to some extent, Paris, London, Toronto, you're going to Dubai next year and counting. So we've been all over talking about this market. People are saying, how are you guys doing this? With that, in light of that, we received $2.5 million from Nike, 1803 Fund, which I suggest you all Google and get on their list, because they're also supporting all Black commerce, Black businesses, organizations. They have an amazing framework. So if you need in your communities, I think they're going to be going national at some point. Get to 1803 Fund. They're one of our biggest funders. And this, by the way, this $2.5 million is not for brick and mortar. It's for people. And all of us in our office, in our building, in our travel. So that helps us tremendously. This is over a 5-year term. So it's like 500, 500, 500. We got to do a lot of reporting, data collection. We want to make sure we're holding ourselves accountable. So again, finding the right partners in your community. There's lots of foundations here. There's lots of foundation. We're going to be talking to them on Monday. So if anybody want to talk, let me know. They just want to meet. We're not even here in Boston. So let's connect with folks who are actually from the city who want to do some work. But again, these are the things we talk about, is being in this together. There's tons of gap funding here that you can apply for in your respective jurisdictions. But getting that gap funding from Meyer Memorial Trust, any foundation will jump on this, because as soon as they see the government's there, it builds your credibility. If the city's involved, how can that fail? We know it can fail, but it's the idea of the city being there. And you get their logo and you substantiate, and I'll show you that later on. Okay, here's the breakdown. You can see them about how the money come into project types and how much money has been allocated to different areas. It's a lot of investment. It's a lot of money. It takes a lot to make these projects move. And some of this, there's some cross contamination because, again, remediation. There's dollars that's there, that's in a business hub, and so on and so forth. So, but that's kind of like the spread of the project type. So what we learned about funding, I think this is really important, a whole bunch of do's. Start the conversations early. 3 to 5, you see how long it took. It takes a long time. It takes a long time to get buy-in. We've been in administration, actual team for only 1 year and 8 months and counting. There's no way we would be able to have this much emphasis and power and flying places, but it's the impact, it's the story behind it, it's the people that's making this drive. I knew very early on, I told you I'm not from Portland, I'm from California. Down through executive search, showed up passionate because this story is often all of our stories. Happens in California, East Palo Alto, I was the assistant city manager there. I had some great work and I said, oh my God, I can do this in real time and do this more of this. So to me going to another Black community is easy for me. It's easy for all of us. We care about our people, so we want to be able to show up in those ways and offer skill sets. So start the conversation early, get with other people that you can get connected with to start. Government funding is slow. It is slow, but it's good. It's slow, but it's good. So be proactive, get out there early and start looking at the RFPs online and see if you can get into that funding cycle. And the foundations want proof. I should not have to call you to see what you have. I shouldn't have to call you to see what you're doing. I shouldn't have to call you to see who your partners is and how much they gave. When you see our website, it is truly our diary. Every single person that touched this project, the janitor, the kids for internships, the donations for dogs and cats, it's all on the website. All of our media engagement, our community engagement, it's all on the website. You gotta make it very accessible because people will walk away. Awards unlock funding. We are now nominated for a Shorty Award. Shorty, I didn't know what it was.
I didn't know what it was either.
See, she didn't know what it is either. But
They told me to look on TikTok about it.
But guess who was on there? This is crazy. The Rock received the Shorty Award, and Jennifer Aniston received the Shorty Award, Kim Kardashian received the Shorty Award, Keke Palmer was hosting the awards. It's in LA, a big show, and it's all about social media and impact. Who knew? And we're up for a category, multidiscipline. What was the category? Multi-initiative, multidiscipline. We're up for an award. And we already won 2 at the Council of Tall Buildings Urban Habitat for diversity and inclusion in our build. But these things matter, substantiates you, it validates you, and it's in headlines. So please, whatever you can do to get an award, even if it's certificates, but you got a couple of those too. We receive it. So those things matter. So make sure you get those awards and actually put it on the website so you can show your work. And stacking your sources is normal. It's gonna be, you have to get at least, your capital stack gotta be real. Every dollar counts. Don't knock anything. So there's no such thing as perfect funding. You know who taught me that? Jackie. I was sitting there, talking with Spoken Chicken yesterday, and I was so nervous about one particular funder, and I don't know if we should wait, maybe we should plan this, we should wait and get a little more money. And she's like, nope, time kills deals. You can't wait. So please do not wait for no perfect funding. There is no such thing. Again, learned that from Jackie. When it's there, you gotta go. And then lastly, don't underestimate soft costs. It will be a lot.
Yeah.
We received a utility bill for $54,000.
And it hurt.
It hurt us so bad. And we have to pay that because we have to keep the development going. So please. Next slide.
And the next slide, we're coming up on time.
Yeah,
it's
go
just the activity we were going to do is building our own reparative model. So I kind of want to give the floor to you guys. We can either work through this or we could just open it up for questions.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that you are at the keynote speaker. There's about 13 minutes left.
Yeah.
So do we want to do the activity or do we want to just
go
open
through
it up for a discussion?
Let's go through it. I think I'm getting the energy. Let's just go through it. We give you guys the floor. You guys ask this question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Just one question. For the home ownership, are you guys looking at limited equity models, or were you like that sort of goes against the wealth building that we're trying? I know there's like a tension there.
Yeah, so yeah, that was the tension that we weighed, and I think for the first one, we decided based on our community feedback that people wanted the full equity, and so that's going to be full equity. And I mean, really, we haven't done the final pricing for the units yet, but with down payments, assist, I mean, we're talking well into the six figures of built-in equity in these townhomes. And I mean, they're not huge houses, so it's in a lot of ways it's kind of money shaped like a house.
I didn't quite hear the question, but it had something to do with equity. And my question is, so to make it affordable, you sort of limit people's income, but to make it wealth generation, they have to be able to capture that increase in profit that the building sort of gathers. So, and I know in Boston, there's some limitations, there's a cap on, you can't sell your house for 25 years.
Yeah.
Just
Yep.
so
Yes.
people not take these properties and
Yes.
Yep.
What do you have?
So that kind of ties in with her question. Her question was thinking about the models of homeownership that make the house affordable kind of in perpetuity. So when you sell it, it's always affordable to the next one versus making it affordable to the first buyer, and then they get to sell it at market rate, and so they get the benefit of the gap in the original sale. And so again, we took that latter model for ours. When you think about some of the other considerations here, I mean, it really kind of goes to balancing what the community need is, and there's a place sort of for both aspects and both approaches to the project. And one of the things that's good about some of the funding models that we got is it's mostly grant. And so we don't have to pay the money back. And most of the money, actually all the money that we got for our homeownership project specifically doesn't tie us to the long-term affordability thing. And so we can just sell it to people without necessarily a restriction. Now, they do have the down payment assistance program, which gives people another path to equity, but that does over time require you to hold it longer to get
But it's
more and more of that
prorated.
benefit.
Yeah.
So
It's
how
prorated
that
by
actually
years.
will work is I've been in my home now for about 5 years, and I think it starts at about year 5, and it could be year 10. So don't let me get that wrong. I'll look it up. But it starts to prorate it. So and it's seen as a second mortgage for me, but I don't have to make payments on it. So I got $90,000. It sits there. And after a certain amount of time, it's going to be prorated. So yeah, let's say I go to sell my house for $400,000, but I owe $50,000 for that additional that money that's still there for the down payment. They'll take that, then I will get the rest. But you are required to be in the house for a certain amount of time before that prorate cut kicks in. But then when you sell it, you can just sell it, and there's no restrictions on that. But there is that piece of it.
And we did hear a lot of concern of, all right, we're trying to sell these homes to bring Black folks back to the community, but if they just buy it and then sell it to somebody else, are we going to get a row of townhomes full of gentrifying white people again?
Right.
And having that down payment assistance and that incentive to stay in the house for at least a little bit of time to increase the amount of equity that you get kind of does that for us.
Yeah.
And so we don't really have to put those restrictions on the townhomes going into it. But you can, and some funding things require it.
I appreciate just how thorough y'all are in checking every box. Can y'all talk a little bit about with the affordable rental in particular, like how did y'all put together the team of like everyone that's needed for that? I remember you mentioning wraparound services, and I'm just curious, like, what does it look like to create an affordable rental community that's generative?
So one thing that super helps is that organization already existed that does all of that, and they've got a bunch of other projects. And so for us and our perspective, they were the obvious choice of who to bring bring on the team. When we went out as the project working group with our RFP to figure out who our development team was going to be, we had one group, which is the one that won, that applied with that nonprofit, and the other group which said, if we win, we're going to reach out to that nonprofit and bring them on the team. and so having an organization that focuses just on that, especially being culturally specific, just on that really helps. And you know, doing these from the comprehensive, it's a lot to build that internally. If we were looking to build that internally, it would be a whole extra step. We'd be bringing on a bunch of other people. It would be a whole separate challenge from what we're trying to do. And so, I mean, I think really from the big picture perspective where we sit, it's finding a partner that has that vision, has those values, does that work, that people trust, and bringing them in onto your team.
There's a lot of not wanting to reinvent the wheel, which then broadens it to bringing in so many community partners that are already doing things
It's so important.
well, that we don't want to be creating things from scratch. And a lot of these organizations are either Black-led or have very deep ties to the community, so they have the trust, they have the reputation that they're bringing in as well, which also provides a lot of buy-in in that way. When you can engage the community, obviously do that. When you don't have to reinvent the wheel, do not reinvent the wheel. Find somebody that is doing it well, somebody that is an expert in it, and somebody that already has that reputation that's going to bring that value to you. Instead of you pulling your hair out, trying to figure out how something is done, when you got somebody right down the street
That's
that's
so
been doing
true.
it for years.
Yeah, and if you do reinvent the wheel, people will see you as stepping on other people's
Yes.
toes,
Exactly.
right? And then
Stay in your lane. It's so
And then you got the problem of, well, we were the ones doing this, and now these new people are coming up, and they're taking our funding and all that sort of stuff, and that's where you get unnecessary conflict.
Here's something, let me just go to pay like 6 minutes, I promise to be my slide. Here's the playbook. You wanna do this in your neighborhood, in the city near you, here's the recipe. Start with land, you need a piece of land, a building that's going down, you need surplus land to do this, you need to find land. Make sure that you're gonna do reparative development, that there's ways to generate wealth. Home ownership, business spaces below the market rate. You gotta make sure there's a wealth incentive there, that's super important. Wealth restoration is super critical. Design with excellence, do not come with nothing crafty, because it defeats the whole purpose, like you gotta be audacious. Huh?
Black people just.
We deserve it.
Right, we deserve
Exactly.
that.
Come with the very best. We work with Lever, who's our architecture design, world known, doing some great stuff. Get the best of the best. Plan for a long-term game. This is gonna be a long haul. As you guys know, it's a long journey, but you'll be committed through all the way through. Community governance. Community boss. My bosses, all 8 of them, have a lot of different personalities, a lot of different ideas. But as administrators, your job, if you all decide to do this, is to tell them what you can and can't do. I know you want to have 20 stories, but guess what? There's density issues when you go 4 stories. It's like you're like the check of the real vision, right? That's why they look at you. It's a hard truth. Think of it like a city government. The city council, board of supervisors tells the city manager what they want the city manager to say, hey, we can't do this because this law says this. And because, it's dreamers, right? They want what was lost and even more. Get the funding stack, it matters. Legal creativity, again, preference policy. Right? The preference policy is the way to get people into those places without breaking the law. So be really creative. Lastly, what they don't tell you, and this, I think this is super important. Community's messy. As soon as you get Sister Hattie who can't sing on tune, on note, you're like, don't listen to that old lady, she don't got nothing nice to say. But again, her voice must be recorded, right? And it's like, oh, Jack is leading the effort. You see what he did? He was with so-and-so last night. But guess what? Jack might have Jack's voice still matters. So it's gonna be a little messy. Who gives that person credibility? Sometimes the only time I'm able to do this job, she's from Portland. Bryson went to school in Portland. I'm not from Portland. So the reason why I have them on the team is because sometimes people may not hear Bryson's voice because he's a lawyer. He's been there as a student. They might not hear Tanisha's voice because she might be the one who's been here for too long. Oh God, it's so crazy, Tanisha, let me get away from her, right? And they might say, oh, he's our lawyer. Who is she? She's new. She's from California. And suddenly, you know how our community could be. As soon as you bring somebody up from the outside, it's like, we don't trust them, but what do you need to do? They want to listen because it's the curiosity of wanting to know more, right? It matters, come as a team. So sometimes for me, even as a woman leader, people may not hear me. There's many guys who turn in and roll an eye, particularly, They might not think where's the credibility, right? But with Bryce, they'll hear him loud and clear, right? They'll hear Tanisha loud and clear, depends on your audience. This is all strategic. You must get a partner. You have to do it in partnership and bring everybody in the room where it happens, not to quote Hamilton. But it's true. Because I know, I'm crazy, okay. Anyways, and I wanna make sure that government partners have to show up. Everyone needs to be in the room making decisions. Reparative development will build the scale, because it's policy, combatant policy. You have a piece of land, but you wanna keep doing policy diffusion everywhere you go, because it's the only thing that's sustainable. Having a building for 10 units is not good enough. We need sustainable policies. Media attention matters. I told you we got all these awards. It matters, because people are like, oh, I saw you did. You get emails in real time. Hey, well, I wanna do this. I saw you on this. I heard you on this. It matters. And remember how we started. Never forget the history. That's what gets us where we are. That's the healing that happens. This is our silver lining. It's our focal point. So lastly, just to end, I want to just encourage you all to join us. If there's something you're interested in on this project, internships, academic credit, if you want to be a practitioner and get into this work, we are going to be offering workshops on funding stacks, workshops on how to do this work, build this model in a city near you. We're happy to come to your city and help out. Again, would you all be in the charge and the directors? We're just going to be your council. Our organization is growing crazily, so we don't know where we're going to end up. We were just in Toronto, and the city was asking us how to do it in Toronto. That's not even America.
Yeah.
Well, to some people. Sorry. But again, we'll see. But here's our QR code. I want to thank you all for your attention and your diligence and just showing up. And Jackie, I have to give such a shout out to Jackie. She's our partner with Audrey, who got us here. It's such an honor before you. I want nothing but excellence for you all. You guys are doing great work. This is such a vision here for us. We will definitely capture the moment and share that we've been here with you all. So thank you. Can I share any questions?
No. And then if you guys have any questions, we'll open it up for that. I was actually hoping